Welcome to Angie and Christie Right Now. Today, we're delighted to introduce a storyteller whose heartfelt novels celebrate the warmth of family, friendship, and Southern charm. A native of the West Bank of New Orleans, our guest now lives in Atlanta, where she penned her debut novel, The Gardens of Eden, and its upcoming sequel, A Garden Wedding, releasing May 13th. This heartwarming series weaves the traditions, flavors, and music of her Louisiana roots into tales of complicated families and complex friendship, always leaving the reader with a feel-good ending. Her essays have also appeared in Writer's Digest, The Nerd Daily, and Deep South Magazine, earning praise wherever Southern storytelling is loved. By day, our guest is a physician who practices medicine with the lofty goal of championing community-based approaches to health equity. And when she's not crafting hopeful stories, you'll find her cooking up a Southern feast, arranging fresh blooms, or indulging in fanatical bargain shopping, and all of that sounds amazing. Join us as we explore her inspiration behind the Garden of Eden series and how she balances life as both storyteller and healer. It is our honor to have Rosey Lee with us today. Rosey, thank you so much for coming on our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That was beautiful.
Oh, well, it's all true. Everything in there was something that you've done. And is there anything that you'd like to add to the introduction?
Sure. I will add just one little piece that Rosey is a pen name. So I like to say that my alter ego is a physician because there are no medical schools or licensing, state licensing boards that recognize the name Rosey Lee. So I like to say Rosey isn't a physician, but my alter ego is.
There you are. I love that. So with all our guests, the first question is always, how did you know you wanted to be a writer?
Sure. So I think I've just kind of always been a storyteller. I mean, growing up in the South, particularly in Louisiana, you hear stories. And I think because I just enjoy sharing stories, whether it's kind of growing up, what was happening during my day as a kid, sharing that with my mom, or doing homework assignments, or just writing poetry for fun. Because when I was a kid, I wrote a lot of poetry. It was not good at all. But I just felt like storytelling was something I would eventually do. I didn't know exactly how or when that would play out. It just has always felt like a part of my life.
I love that answer. Poetry at a young age, too. That's so cool. Even if it's not the way that you think that it's good, I don't care. As a young kid, that's great. That's great.
So how
Poetry
old
was really
were
my
you?
first love. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's my fault. So how old were you when you first started actually writing books?
Oh, actually writing books? I don't think I tried writing a book when I was a kid. I wasn't one of those. It was really just poems that I didn't really share with people. So I'd say in my 40s was the first time I wrote a book, and that's The Gardens of Eden. Yeah.
Oh, so how did that come about? I mean, did you just suddenly, or was it an idea that had been percolating for a while and then you decided to write it, or was it something that was just you woke up one day and were like, oh, inspiration hit and
yeah, I think it had to have been, I always forget the year, but I think it had to have been maybe around 2007, 2008. And I was at a conference that happened to be at Disney World. So I was walking on the lot of Universal Studios or something. And the idea just popped in my head to write a book that answers the question of what happened after the stories told in the Bible. And what's really interesting is I wasn't doing a Bible study or anything. I hadn't been thinking about it, hadn't been wondering about it. It just popped in my head. So I really believe it was just divinely ordered, and I was divinely gifted the idea. I grew up in church, go to church, read the Bible, but I wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. And I'm not someone who was just really focused on it at that time, but the idea just popped in my head. And so it took probably about 10 years until I figured out what to do with that idea.
Okay. So had the characters been living in your head for all that time?
No, I didn't know what women I would choose. When I tell you, I'm walking and, well, I'll put it to you this way. I knew that I wanted to write a book. And so I'd been thinking for years, how do I start doing this? And just never got an idea that really clicked for me. And I'm one of those people who I don't write unless I know what I'm writing. I don't have to have everything planned. I'm not a pure plotter, but I felt like I kind of need to know what book I was writing before I, started trying to write, especially when you haven't had any formal training. Like the last writing I had done was during my freshman year of college.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, and that was a time where I was a pre-med or my alter ego, I guess, was a pre-med major, but English was required. And so I took the classes and we had to write a portfolio. And so we wrote pieces all throughout the semester. And then at the end of the semester, you would put them together based on the feedback that the professor had given us throughout the course. You made revisions and then you put them all together in a portfolio.
Okay.
And so the feedback I got from my professor was really promising. He's like, you really could do something with this writing thing. And so I remember thinking, well, I'm pre-med. Like, how am I going to do that? When am I going to do that? I don't know how this all works. And so I figured, you know what? After I make it through medical school residency, I'll figure it out. And so it had just always been in the back of my head, well, what is this book that I'm planning to write going to be about? And so I'd just been asking myself that question incessantly, but just in different spurts, jotting down ideas, but just nothing really stuck with me. And so what's interesting is I hadn't been like really focused on it that week either. It was interesting. It just popped in my head. I'm like, okay. And then, over the course of, I guess, those 10 years, I'd have periods where I would try to figure out like who the characters will be. And so like I bought pretty soon after I got the idea, once I got back home and got settled, I bought a devotional about women of the Bible. And so I just read through and just tried to figure out what story stuck with me, but really didn't make any decisions just because I don't know, I guess the timing just wasn't right. And so around, I guess, 2018, I decided I really wanted to focus and well, I actually thought about it about 4 years later. So I made some career changes to allow more time for writing, to give me more control of my own schedule. But still took me about 4 years to get to the point where I knew which characters and what the story would be. Because even when I figured out, okay, I like the story of Mary and Martha, I like the story of Ruth and Naomi, I always just had questions about both of them. But like, so what? Like, what are they going to do? How are they connected? And so I took two women from the New Testament and put them in the same family as two women from the Old Testament, which is not biblically sound. My book isn't, it's really just, it's about a family. It's about normal people. It's about regular people. In the South, everybody goes to church, or most people go to church. A lot of people go to church. A lot of people pray. It's just, it's a part of your regular life. And I just wanted to write about regular people who just happen to be inspired. Their characters, their personalities, their motivations happen to be inspired by women of the Bible. So I figured it would resonate with people who know about those characters because they read the Bible or they grew up in church or whatnot. But it would also resonate with people who just like stories about families. And so I really wrote my book in a way that I think it can be enjoyed by both groups of people. I think sometimes people are a little confused and think that only people who know about the Bible and grew up in church or, or read traditional Christian fiction would like my book, but I've actually heard quite the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, it was really good. And I really enjoyed the characters and the family and actually your world, because you have a town that was based on the enslaved people who lived in that town and were the founders of the town. And I love that. I love that you just made it feel real in a way that, there's really a town out there.
I love that so much because for me, it came out of the question of, just hearing about towns like Rosewood, hearing about Black Wall Street, hearing about Robert's settlement in Indiana, and Eatonville, Florida, where Zora Neale Hurston lived, and wondered, if these towns that were founded by previously enslaved people had been allowed to thrive, what would those families' lives be like? And so I grew up watching Dynasty and Falcon Crest. I'm totally aging myself. And soap operas, like 3 years old, pretending to nap, watching The Young and the Restless. So all of those things just kind of inspired my writing because I'm thinking they could have been the Black Colbys. They could have been the Black Carringtons. And so I just created a town where that was possible.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it so
Oh,
much.
you've said that too. I totally picture it, like reading the book. That's like the drama is so good and so captivating. That's what makes you turn the page. You know what I mean? Like you want to know what's going to happen and what Martha is going to do next. And like
Martha.
great, great. Great. Love her.
Well, and that was one of the interesting things too about the story is like in the first book, you have 4 different characters and you're going in their POVs. So you're like, so you have the POVs of these 4 characters and you're bringing them to life. And then in the second book, you're only focusing on Martha's POV. So how did that shift change?
It just felt like the way the story was supposed to be written. So there are people who say, like, you, for your first novel and you hadn't written anything else, you wrote a multi-POV story. And I'm like, I heard that's tough, but I couldn't imagine any other way to do it. And, I did it my way. I tried to make the POVs feel different and seem different, which was hard, particularly when it came to Mary and Martha, because they kind of look alike. Well, not kind of, they do look alike. That's kind of part of the plot.
Yeah.
And so, but they're very different. They're different in the way that they communicate and whatnot. So I tried to get that across in just the best way that I could. And that's where editors also help too, right? But I felt like the first book, The Gardens of Eden, the main character is the family. And what other way can I tell you the story of the family unless we visit each woman's perspective? And so the question was, is this family going to stay together? That's the question. But then as I wrote the book, I actually didn't plan on writing a series. I very much felt like I am not a series author. I think that's really brilliant when people can do that, but I'm not one of those people. Like I don't have that many stories to tell. But as I wrote the book, I felt like Martha just wasn't going to get to where she needed to be by the end of the story. And if I forced it, it would feel forced. And I didn't want that. And so as I continued, I was like, I'll figure it out, I guess, as I keep writing. And so as I did that, it occurred to me, oh, there's got to be another book where we have to deal with Martha.
Well, then you finished Martha's story, and I'm like, Mary and
yeah. So
now I'm like, okay, I'm not trying not to spoil it, but yes, her story.
Yeah, I went back and forth, like, how much do I say, when people ask when I'm working on next? But yeah, we will explore Mary's story. I feel like that's the safest thing to say.
Okay.
That's my plan. Well,
okay. I'm cool with that. I'm really happy with that because I was like, oh wow.
No, totally. So how do you go from you've got the idea and you just told us that you're not a pure plotter, but you're probably not a pure pantser, so you're somewhere in between a plantser.
Right? I'm a plantser.
Okay. Yeah. So you go from there, you sit down, you write the story, and then what? Do you have people look it over?
So what I do, I don't even, I call it an outline, but it's not a real outline. I try to write at least one sentence, but it could be as many as 5 or a few paragraphs, just kind of depends, describing what happens in each scene. So I know where I'm going. I have some idea usually of what the ending will be, but it's not a fully fleshed out idea. So I say that, but that's interesting. Because when I think about, what it is that there are differences in the way that I approached the first book, because I didn't know what I was doing, and the second book. So that's why I'm like, wait, that's not fully true. Because when I think about how The Gardens of Eden ended, I did not plan for that scene to happen. Try not to spoil it, because I didn't plan to write anything more than a family story.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Am I being safe enough and not spoiling anything for anyone?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's funny that now I realize I'm someone who writes family stories that have romantic elements. That was not my intention. I just plan to write family stories. But apparently I bring a romantic element into every book so far. So
I love it.
That's what I do.
Life is full of romance. Families are full of
exactly, yeah.
So it works. It absolutely works. So now you've written a book, and do you write a query search for an agent? How do you go from there?
Sure. So first, I think I got feedback from, I didn't know to call them beta readers at that point, but I knew that I had a friend who did not really read books. I
Okay.
shouldn't say really. She would say, I don't read.
Okay.
But I knew that she was a core part of a portion of my target audience. And I
Okay.
knew that if she liked the book, that I would be okay. And much to my, and she told me it's probably going to take me 3 months. And I'm like, okay. But it took her 24 hours. And that actually really keeps me going because I know if I can just find the people who need this book, they will enjoy it. So for me, that's like one of the best beta reading experiences I've ever had. And so that's now my model. I write the book, I give it to trusted people who know me well. They're family members, friends. One is an aspiring writer now, but she didn't read the first book before it came out, but now she's a part of my little circle. And I know that if they like the book, I'm going to be okay. And so I did that. And I did work with the Gardens of Eden. I did work with the freelance editor.
Okay.
And so freelance editors, I worked with freelance editors before I let my friend read it, by the way.
Okay.
So she had a better version. And for me, that's because, the last time I'd taken a full writing class
Oh
was,
yeah. No.
in college. And it was just, well, it was a strong writing class, but I didn't have any plans of writing immediately. So I knew I needed some help. And that was really, really great for me just to kind of have some guidance along the way. And so I worried a little bit because I didn't work with the freelance editor on the second book. But that's where I realized as long as my trusted folks gave me the okay, then it was all right for me to pass it on to my editor at my publishing company.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you sent it to your editor, it was like a developmental editor, is that it?
Oh, yes, for the first book, yes.
Okay.
But for the second book, I just sent it straight to my editor who bought the
Yeah,
book.
and
Yeah.
that completely makes sense. And then all your friends agree and you make the changes according to what they're saying or whatever, and then you tighten everything up, and then what do you do? Did you
Honestly,
ever
they
have a thought about going
didn't.
self-publishing, traditional? Was there a debate?
No, I knew that I wanted to query agents.
Okay,
And so I started querying agents at that point for the first book. Yeah.
very nice.
Yeah. And how was the call with your agent?
It was exciting. I wasn't sure what to make of it. What I've learned is that, everyone's path is different. So you really shouldn't think that it's going to be just like you heard someone else's or just like what you heard from someone else's experience. It can be very, very different. So it was exciting. And things worked out, and I got a book deal. It took a while on submission, but it worked out.
One we've talked to has a different story about
Yeah.
their publishing path, and one of the things that sometimes people don't realize is it does take a long time sometimes.
Yeah. Oh,
Like just
gosh.
querying itself can take a while, and then
Oh,
finding
yeah.
a publisher can take a while. And so during the process while you were out on submission to find your publisher, were you working on the second book or were you working on a different book?
Oh, I had high plans to have the second book finished by the time I got a deal, and none of that happened. I was busy juggling life, work, family responsibilities, dealing with the pandemic. So I wrote The Gardens of Eden. I started outlining it in December of 2019. Kept working on my outline for maybe the first few days of January of 2020. And I took the whole month of January off. And because my alter ego is self-employed. So I was able to control my own schedule and kind of front load things. And work-wise, January is a kind of slow time. My alter ego does community health consulting. And so it's a slower time. So still did some work, but didn't have lots of meetings. So I was really able to carve out time. So wrote most of that book in January of 2020 and maybe in the first half of February. Went on vacation, was a little worried about that virus that was over there and hopeful that it wouldn't come over here, and got back and the world shut down a few weeks later in March. So just dealing with all of that, I just didn't feel so inspired to write more while I was working with a freelance editor or even while I was on submission, because this pandemic has been years long and there have been just lots of things to consider and deal with in my life, so, and in my family, unfortunately, but we're making it through.
Obviously everything worked out because this is great. So let's dig into these books a little bit. So how like even on your website, I saw that you even had a map of where the houses are and everything. Like, how detailed is it in your brain for how long does it take you to write like a chapter, or how many hours do you work on it a day? Like, it's
So
so exciting.
I'm a very visual person.
Okay.
So I have to know, I'm not going to just create a room or a space on my own. Well,
Okay.
sometimes I guess I may have ideas about things, but I usually find a picture that represents either what I'm thinking, or I stumble across a picture that becomes what I'm thinking.
Love it.
So, in terms of creating the map, I was inspired by a town that I visited. And so I was able to kind of craft this vision of the estate based on just kind of being at the place. And I'm like, this is where the gardens could live. And
Love
so I just kind of put the map together and then reached out to a map illustrator that I found on Fiverr and said, here is my little rendering. Can you make this? And she did. And so I added that in when I queried. And so that was, I think, very, very helpful, because I wanted people to see like this is a place that like I have in mind. And it was very cheap, surprisingly cheap.
The fact that you say that you're very visual, like I can totally see it, because in your books, there's description of even the rooms that they're sitting in, and like the swing on the patio or anything. Like, it's also visual that I could absolutely see where you were talking about. So
The blue velvet chair at the hotel.
Yeah.
She ran
So
into
I
the
totally
bus.
cheat. It's like so I was one of those kids who had parents who, when you asked a question, they made you look it up. So like now my mom's really surprised that when we're talking on the phone, she's like, you're Googling, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, like, because you made me look everything up, and then it's what, Encyclopedia Britannica or whatever it was called. Again, aging myself. With the internet and with Pinterest, I can find things. So I like design what the room in a house looks like. And I don't design the whole room. Like, I don't have like a visual depiction of all that, but I think of certain things in the room. And like, for example, Martha really loves antiques, and we learn more about why in a garden wedding. And so I thought, for like there's one scene, I wanted her to be getting a towel out of the getting a towel to go take a shower. So it's like, this is a good place to tell people about Martha by introducing them to a family heirloom. And so I thought, what kind of family heirloom would I like her to have? She's a doctor, a medical cabinet. So let's find a medical cabinet that she can use for storage in her hallway, next to her bathroom. And so then I go on Pinterest and I find one, and then I just describe it.
I love it. It's great when you're reading as a reader. It sets you up like so well. Fantastic job for that. Awesome.
Thank you.
So do you have Pinterest boards of your books?
I do, but they're not public. I don't make them
website,
public.
Please.
maybe I should, but yeah, that's what I do, because especially since I'm writing a series, if I revisit that person's home, I need to know what it looked like. So as I was writing the second book, I went back to a garden wedding and I do a search and find whatever thing I'm looking for and read about, and then I go back and look at the board and I'm like, okay, so now we're back in the room, and then I'll talk about what happens, and maybe I'll describe the same thing in that space, or because I did that because work smarter, not harder, right? Like copy paste. And I was like, I don't know if this is what other people do, but we'll see if my editor pushes back, and she didn't. And I'm like, I can't be accused of plagiarizing. They're literally my words. It is a description of a place that we're revisiting. So work smarter, not harder. So I totally did that too.
Now, in the garden wedding, I love what you did, because so many families are affected by Alzheimer's or vascular dementia. And I absolutely love that from where you took it, which is denial, which I think a lot of families probably start off with, to helping them through it so that they can actually come to a point where they're accepting of it. This, obviously, like, you can tell that you have that medical background, but it was so heartwarming, I mean, to read it, because like always, I don't think there's even a family that's not affected at some level by dementia or Alzheimer's. So I just wanted to thank you for doing that. And how did you proceed because that's a delicate subject,
Yeah, thank you. By the way, I'm going to use the word heartwarming. I think it's a great new word. So might want to like trademark that or something. So I'm going to start. That's fantastic. My alter ego does a lot of work with the American Heart Association.
Okay.
And there are reasons for that, right? Heart disease and high blood pressure, or hypertension. It's such a big part of the chronic illnesses that we see in this country. And so yeah, heart disease is its own illness, but high blood pressure contributes to both heart disease, contributes to stroke. People know that. But frequently, people don't realize that having high blood pressure can also put you at risk for dementia. So a lot of people know about Alzheimer's disease, and people will say, oh, this person has dementia, it's Alzheimer's, but sometimes it's actually not Alzheimer's. It's something called vascular dementia, and there's a difference between the two of them. And so there are some things that maybe people can do to decrease their risk for Alzheimer's. There's a lot of new work in that area, but we know that there's a lot that people can do to decrease their risk for vascular dementia. And so I really wanted to talk a lot about that because part of my alter ego's work is around health education and consulting on health promotion activities, doing medical consulting, helping people design health programs to spread the word about health issues and then make people more prepared. For me, I see my fiction as an extension of that work. I think we've got to be creative about how we message things, how we present information to people. And so I just wanted to use my book to help people to understand more about that, the risk factors and what can happen, or what you can do to affect your risk, but also what types of tools and strategies you can use once it's something that you deal with in your family. Because as you said, so many people don't realize what's available. It's kind of like how people say, people may not always remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel. If you can feel something for the characters in this book, and then you'll remember some of the things that they go through. And even if you don't remember all the things that I mentioned, you're like, wait, there's some resources out there.
Yes.
Let me go look for them, or let me pull that book. What was going on? Maybe let me read it again. Yeah, read it again. How about that? But just to help people know, because so often, particularly people in certain communities, don't realize all the resources that are available. And so part of when I'm doing clinical work is helping people to understand that, on a one-on-one basis. But there are only so many people you can affect that a physician can impact one-on-one. But when you're telling everyone who reads your book that these are the particular resources that are available for someone who has dementia, it can make a bigger impact.
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah,
did.
one of the
Definitely.
things I didn't realize was the silver alert. I didn't know that
yeah.
they had the silver alert. And yeah, I mean, because my mom, she has Alzheimer's, and one of the things of course you worry about is her getting lost or something. And I knew that they had it for children, but I didn't know they had it for people who were elderly and had or just people with dementia. So
yeah, and unfortunately, it's not something that people always get told at their doctor's appointments or other appointments for support services. And so that's one reason I wanted just to kind of help spread the word. So I'm glad that was helpful for you.
Yeah, I know. I really thank you for that. I learned a lot from your books. I mean, one of the things that I really appreciated about was just watching Mary and her issues that she had, her health issues. Try not to spoil anything. But then also in the second book as well, you explaining what was happening to them and the things that they can do to help themselves become healthier.
Yeah.
Mental health too. You talked about therapy, and I loved that. I love it that there's no shame. There's it's like you go to therapy and it just helps you, and that was fantastic.
Oh, and you see it through the course. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
You see it through the course of both books, them evolving through the course of both books.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's what I think should happen. Hopefully, with all health conditions, right? Physical health as well as mental health. And I look at mental health in the same way that I do as physical health. In my alter ego's clinical work, I really spent time working on integrating mental health into the primary care setting. And so if I am so committed about that in my work, I feel like I've got to put mental health in my books too, because I think everybody should have a therapist. I really do. I think it's really sad that we don't talk more about that in this country, and that there's so many barriers to people getting mental health, whether it's so often that insurance doesn't cover and people have to pay for it out of pocket. That's one of the big issues. And so I figure if I can just do some work to help people kind of decrease the stigma that's around it, so people are more open to it, whether it's, they ask for a referral and find out if their insurance will pay for it, or if they make it a priority to pay for it out of pocket or find low cost services. is. Or even, if they're not able to do that, to find other ways. Like there are support groups, there are all sorts of things. There are nonprofit organizations that help people. So, I just feel like we've got to do that because mental health is health.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. So one last question before we go on to our speed round is, what's the one thing that you think that you've done so far in your career as a writer that's brought you to where you are, the success that you have today?
Oh, that's a good question. I think really following my heart. I listened to a webinar the other day that Jane Friedman did because she's releasing, or she's just released the updated version of her book, The Business of Being a Writer, or something like that. I think her book was first published in 2013. And so she was talking about that. And she talked about people kind of knowing what they're doing and why they're doing it, and that letting that drive you. And I'm probably doing a horrible job of paraphrasing, but letting it drive you so that you stay in the game long term, like being clear about what your focus is and what your goal is. And I think for me, because I have not some idea, but because I know what that is, it really has made me really stick with it when there've been a lot of things that could come along to distract me, whether it's, the time it took to get an agent or the time it took to get a deal, but also just all the work that authors have to do on their own to promote their own books. Like, it's exhausting. And you could say, like, why am I doing this? But because for me, my writing is very decidedly, it's a leg in my business model, right? For me, my writing is very connected to the work that I do during the week, right? I should say during the week, because like I'm always doing that work on the weekends too. So I'm like, I don't know. But it's all connected for me. It's a part of my life's mission. It's a part of my life's goal. I think for me, and I was very clear about that, even when I first met my agent, to say, like, I understand that this is a business and this is business for me. I look at this like I look at my medical work. It's just another leg. And for me, they're connected, they're tied in. So yeah, I'm going to make this work. I have to. It's kind of working smarter, not harder, but it's all just connected to why I do what I do. There are people in my life who say, okay, well, now that you're writing, are you going to stop doing the doctor stuff? And I'm like, no, just like I'm not going to stop writing. Like, it's all connected.
Oh, I love that.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Answer. Yeah, that's absolutely. It's a great. Okay, I know I said it's the last question, but I really have one last question. Can I go ahead, Angie? Do you think we have time?
That's fine.
Okay. I'm curious to know if you have a favorite character in your books.
Okay, that's one of my favorite questions that people ask. And my answer is no, it kind of depends on the day. It changes. But I guess if you force me to choose one, I would say it's not one of the women, but that's all I'll say. And it's not because he's a man, but I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who reads it. But it's not because he's a man. He's just, I love that he's just got a good heart and he fits in with these wacky women, and he wants to be there, and he adds something to their lives. But
I don't know if this is
just by the day, but
yeah. Well,
he probably gets the most votes over the course of a month. Does that work? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So one of my favorite moments in A Garden Wedding was the end. And Naomi shared what Nicholas had told her.
Okay, so now you've told them who it is, right?
Oh, okay. Well, that's my favorite. So
yes, it's Nicholas. He's most often my favorite. Secrets out.
Yeah, he's a great character.
I love him.
Like
he's my dream man. He's my
dream. I love that moment. That was my, like, when I read that, it was just like,
like, y'all just don't know what this man has sent me through. But I love that for him, because he's got all this money, but he just really loves this family and loves these women. It's like, I love it because, and I'm sure he was very, very happy with his first wife, and his life it ended up where it was supposed to end. Mm-hmm. But, he always wanted kids. So he's like having the time of his life.
I love that. So Rosey, thank you so much for talking about your books, how you go about writing, everything that's so important in those books that we all need to take a second look at. And the family units that you've created in these books is amazing. I love it, love it, love it, love it. And now we're going to switch over to what we call our speed round question.
Okay.
It's not really speed round. You can answer any way you want.
Okay.
But this is so that the audience can see you in a different light. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, good. Number one is it's 3 p.m. and you need to pick me up. Do you reach for something sweet or something savory?
Oh, definitely sweet.
Oh, I like that too.
Yeah.
Number two is what's your go-to music genre for relaxing?
Probably jazz.
Love that. Absolutely.
I almost said rain because I listen to rain or, well, actually not rain, oceans when I sleep. So it's like, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
all of that. All of the above works for me.
Like
Number
an
three,
airplane.
airplane.
Airplane. the sleep sounds.
Yeah.
I like
That's
airplane.
interesting. I've never heard that one before.
Me neither. That's so, but I might try
It
that.
makes sense though.
I fall asleep in airplanes all the time. So
Oh,
maybe,
as soon as I get on the plane, I'm out. Best sleep
right?
ever.
Number three is, are you a morning person who jumps out of bed or a night owl?
Okay. I think in my purest state, because this is a complicated, very layered answer. I'm a morning person who wakes up with the sun. But because my life is so hectic, I frequently work late into the night, like, 3 a.m. Yeah. So
now
I'm
you're
like,
the candle at both ends.
yes, exactly. But left to my, like, once I'm well rested, like, I really do wake up with the sun. And so I really struggle a lot during winter time because I'm like, it's dark outside. Why do you want me to wake up? This is not okay. This is not normal. This is not humane. Yeah, I get very upset.
Number four is, would you rather binge a new TV series or dive into a stack of books?
Oh, it depends on where I am and it depends on the time, to be honest. I probably would pick the books though. I think I would. Yeah.
It depends, right? If you really just want to stop thinking, you'll go to the TV but the books are so, I don't know, books are always great for me.
Yeah, and they're reliable and fun. And I like creating my own images in my head. That's what I love most about reading, which is why for me, that's one of the big reasons I don't share my Pinterest boards, because I don't want to rob anyone of the opportunity to create their own vision. Like, I don't feel like I should get to tell you what it really looks like and ruin it for you. Like, because sometimes people are like, even like when it comes to the characters, like sometimes when I talk to book clubs, people will ask me, what certain characters look like. And occasionally I'll tell people, but this is why I try not to, because they're like, what? That's not at all what I thought they looked like. Yeah. And sometimes it's because they interpreted something that I wrote in the book in a different way than I intended.
Yes.
And it devastates. I shouldn't say devastates, but it really shocks them. Like, that's not what I thought they looked. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to ruin it for you. Sorry.
I agree. That's why when they
having too much description. Oops, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. It's good. It's also why, like, when they turn a book into a movie, like half of the crowd is like, oh no, that doesn't.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I'd love to have, a film deal. Absolutely. But I'm not going to get involved with that piece. Like, that's going to be on the film folks. Like, y'all blame them, not me.
Number five is, what do you like the most about living in Georgia?
Ooh, the people.
Aww.
I'm very much, a consummate Southerner. It's all about the people. Yeah.
About that. On vacation, do you map out every detail or do you just go with the flow?
Probably. It's very similar to the way I approach writing. I have like a skeleton and then I play it by ear.
Oh, I like that. That's good. It's a good compromise of both.
Yeah.
Number 7 is a fill in the blank. If I'm in search of inspiration, I usually
go to the beach.
Oh, that sounds great, actually.
Yeah, like beach is my perfect relaxation space. And so I've got to just chill out for a minute. And then it helps, I say a minute, but like a day or two. And then usually by day 2 or 3, ideas start coming into my head because I'm relaxed.
It's so true. When you're trying hard to get an idea, nothing happens, right?
Right, exactly.
Number 8 is, what's something you don't mind spending a little bit more money on?
Ice cream.
Oh, yes.
I'm very picky about my ice cream.
Favorite flavor?
Okay, so well, I have an answer for that, but I'm going to still say it depends.
Okay.
Yeah, it does depend. So I'll give you an example. In my book, there's bride's cake ice cream, which is a real thing. It really does exist. I did eat a lot of it right in this book. But I also really love gooey butter cake and brown butter almond brittle, which is made by Jenny's. Bride's cake is Bluebell. I love you both. If anyone from either company is watching, I do love you both.
Sponsor,
Thank you very
sponsor.
much. Yeah.
Absolutely. That sounds delicious. Delicious.
So again, it's like one of those timing.
Food. Yeah.
It depends on what's going on.
I love it.
I got many extra pounds though from eating the Bride's Cake ice cream, so I'm gonna get my life together soon.
It sounded good actually when you described it in the book. So definitely gonna look for that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to try a new hobby on a whim?
Pretty unlikely. I think just because of time. And I also like what I like. Like I believe I've certainly grown and evolved over the years, but I'm largely the same person I was when I was a child.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
very good. And the last one is, do you have a favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Oh, me too. Thank you for answering those.
Thank you. Those were good questions.
Fun.
What are you working on now? So do you have another project in the works?
So yes, so I am working on Mary's story and I am very excited about it. And I will tell you, so I initially, when we went on submission, I planned for a 3-book series. My deal is for 2 books. So, and especially that early on, like you have an idea of what will happen in book 2, you have an idea of what will happen in book 3, but I wasn't close enough to book 3. As I wrote book 1, I knew that book 2 had to happen. So I thought, I'll see how I feel as I write book 2. And going into it, I was like, I don't think book 3 is going to happen. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with Mary. Like, maybe it should be a novella or a short story. Like, I don't have enough. But as I wrote book 2, as you know, because you've read it, it's like, oh yeah, we're definitely doing this. And so I'm very, very, very excited about it.
Well, I think all your readers are going to be very, very, very excited about it.
It's going to be so much fun. I am like so thrilled.
So have you started writing it already?
Yes.
Like, okay.
Yes. And it's fun.
That's
I don't want to say too much. I know
I'm like just waiting for some secret squirrel information here, but no. Okay.
It's fun. We're gonna deal with some things that I thought were done, but they're not done yet.
Oh,
like things from book 1?
Yeah.
Oh, this gets even
I'm
more
excited. So like we're not.
And it's probably not at all what you think, because when I told my friends, they, you did what? I'm like, yeah, I did.
Oh,
That's all I'll say.
Okay. All right. We'll let it go. All right.
And I will tell you that you will find out the gasp. It will be on the back cover of the book. That's all I will say. I've already said too much now.
Nice.
I know you're really like, what? Yeah.
Can't wait.
I did something. I've said way too much.
All right. I'll tamp down my emotions. I'll be patient for it to come. Do you know when it might be coming, or have you submitted it yet?
I don't know. I haven't. No, we don't even have a deal yet.
Well, you will. I'm going to put that in the universe.
Yeah.
All right. So where can people find you on their internet?
At Rosey Lee Books, ROSEYLEE Books, just about everywhere. And my website is roseyleebooks.com.
All right. Well, everyone, this has been fun. I mean, is there anything else you want to share before
you two have been great. This has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for caring about my characters and my journey. I appreciate it.
I have this quote of yours, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but one of the things that really stood out was when you said, relationships don't have to be perfect. They can be works in progress. And I don't know why, but for some reason that really resonated with me. And I just wanted to thank you, because your books really, I mean, they felt good. They were books that just make you feel good, and they're educational at the same time. And I just wanted to thank you for bringing that awareness, to people as well.
I appreciate that so much. That was my goal. I want to write feel good books, but I worried a little bit because there's some drama. So I'm like, are people going to think this is still feel good? So I love when I hear that. So thank you.
There's drama, but you show how to work through it in a healthy way.
Thank you.
Right. All right. So we just wanted to thank you again for coming on the podcast, and you are welcome back when that 3rd book is coming out, so you can promote it, because we want to hear about that journey as well. And again, thank you so much. So everyone, if you love Rosey Lee as much as we do, please grab her book. The Gardens of Eden is already out.
Yes. Gardens of Eden. Oh, and you've got it too there, right?
Yeah.
So,
A Garden Wedding is coming out.
Yes.
In, what's the date?
I got finished copies yesterday.
Oh, look at that.
May 13th it's coming out, right?
Yes.
May 3rd. So please pre-order her book. If you enjoyed these videos and want more author interviews, go to one of our playlists. And of course, please like and subscribe to our channel so that you know when other videos are coming out. Again, thank you, Rosey Lee, for coming on. And we just
Thank you.
had a great
And thanks
time
for
with
all
you.
that you do. You two are amazing.
Oh,
Oh, thank you. We love what we do just as much as you like what you do, probably. So
very much so.
thank you so much. Till next
Bye,
time.
everyone.